of sabotage and misleading recipients of social grants of trying to claw back their share of beneficiaries. The minister had harsh words for Net1, whose subsidiaries include the outgoing provider of cash grants, Cash Paymaster Services or CPS, and a number of others who offer financial products to grant recipients. In 2014, the Constitutional Court said CPS's contract with the South African Social Security Agency, Sassa, was invalid. And after years of delays, Sassa is now working with the South African Post Office to implement a new system of paying cash grants. The new system has been riddled with challenges, with many recipients still unable to access their monies. Well, the minister joins us now in the studio. Good evening to you, and thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you, evening, Bwani, and the listeners.
Now, you didn't mince your words around these accusations of sabotage by the Net1 group of companies. What did you mean?
Well, it's the tendencies and what they were doing to our members, where you'll find that they have people moving around the pay points, recruiting back our members as we're trying to do the card swap, but also trying to lure them back into the processes of being CPS members. So that's part of it. But also the other thing is that, which they were doing, you know, I went to one of the pay points, they call it Protea Glen Garden. I went there, and what they were doing as Net1 now, recruiting back our members and giving them forms to go to our pay points to ask for consent that they should continue with them. So these are some of the things which they've been doing. About 3 weeks ago, in Hammanskraal, they had a huge feast. And as they had the feast, there were people, they were saying everyone can come in. But what they did in turn is that elderly people, as they go there, they said they must start at a different tent and they will get the green cards. So that was part of making sure that they get back our members. So these are some of the tricks and tactics they've been using to get back our members and make sure that our beneficiaries, not our members, our beneficiaries, continue with them. And for us, what is key, we have a mandate from the court in making sure that the 2.5 million of our beneficiaries, which were getting their monies at different pay points, come end of September, we have no relationship with CPS.
The first thing I suppose we also need to establish is that as we sit here, are there still beneficiaries who haven't been able to get their money?
Well, I must say yes. We still have beneficiaries who have not got their money, but there's nothing anomaly or new to that. Our pay system starts on the 1st of every month and ends on the 19th of every month because we stagger the payment in different areas. So when you find some of the people, they haven't received their payment, it's because they might be, in terms of the due date, it's tomorrow or it's on the 15th.
But essentially there's no one who was supposed to have received the money who hasn't.
Definitely we have not, and we've worked very hard on that. We've brought almost all our technical people. We had the Reserve Bank, we had BankServe, we have BASA, we had SAPO, we had Sassa, and we brought all the technical expertise around technical aspects related to money to come together and help us unlock and unblock the challenges which we had.
I suppose part of the problem you're facing with all of this is that this whole system is still very much reliant on CPS and Grindrod Bank. And the question I would ask you is, why have those recipients who've retained the old Sassa or Grindrod cards not migrated to the new system?
Well, we're having a lot of them who are migrating. As I speak to you today, by yesterday we had 1.6 million from the 2.5 cash transaction beneficiaries who are now migrated from CPS into Sassa SAPO process in getting the yellow new card which we are issuing now. So we have that number. From the Grindrod, 5.4 million. I'm happy to say where we are, we are about 730,000 who have migrated. So as you know, this is a new system. We've just started. You can't just expect this flooding of our people, but also we need or we continue to give messages at different points in making sure that our people understand. But with the process we're having and the speed we're at, we are satisfied that we will be able to meet the court obligation in ensuring come September we're not dealing with CPS.
So if I'm looking at the allegations you're making around underhanded tactics, part of the problem, of course, is that even with those who do have SAPO cards, the new gold cards, some of the pay points they have to use are still managed by the old Net1 companies. And sometimes those transactions fail.
Well, no, I am not aware that we have pay points which are managed by Net1. You must know that we had an agreement with CPS in terms of the court process and all other processes. We went to court this year for a 6-month extension to continue working on a phase-down approach with CPS. And that's where we are. So that is why you'll find that you still find Net1 still doing some of the transaction. You will still find CPS still doing some of the transaction. But the key is about we downscaling that process when it comes to CPS and Net1. So that's where we are.
Part of the problems that people have complained about around the challenges that you say arose earlier this month is that, will you admit at the very least that Sassa and SAPO were really ill-prepared for the migration of this number of people all at once? And in a sense, to blame some of them in terms of the congestion of the system is really not taking responsibility for what went wrong.
Well, I don't remember anyone saying or refusing to take responsibility. We have acknowledged, and I also want to acknowledge and still apologize to our beneficiaries for what happened. Indeed, because SAPO came in a bit late as part of the preferred bidder, it had technical challenges, and we've got to accept. And here you're talking also about a transition, moving from a particular system to a new system. And you're going to a system which you have not tested. So if you had an opportunity to test the system, and then these things would not have happened. But these glitches which we've had, the advantage is that we're able to identify to them that it's glitches which are arising out of the technical system, which was not sufficient enough to make sure that the transition itself is smooth. As I speak to you, all your Reserve Bank, BankServe, they're working 24 hours at making sure that come end of July, we don't encounter the same problem. And I must say, we are confident that this country do have that capacity to make sure that we're going to move into the new system and its transition will be smooth.
The difficulty that some people might have is exactly as you're saying now. We had these glitches that should have been anticipated. I mean, seeing those snake-long queues of people who are vulnerable, some of them elderly, others disabled, going to certain pay points, being told to move others, some of whom couldn't get to those pay points. There were situations where people were standing long queues with no bathrooms, many of them claiming that they were treated rudely by officials. All of that, in a way, shows a lack of caring, some would say, by those in charge.
Well, Bongani, I must say that the long queues, the snake queues, we come from that. I've been visiting the pay points before we even started. I went to one pay point in Klerksdorp. I found, not now, when I was starting, I found that there's a long queue. The same things, no ablution, no even water. So this has been part of the old. And that's part of the old which we want to make sure that we deal with it decisively. And we really once more want to apologize sincerely, because that was not our expectation. And indeed, any new system will have challenges. But also out of the challenges, they create an opportunity for you to improve the system. So we are in that space, but we are confident that we're going to get it right. Let me also say, we started in May with 230 people. We went through that successfully so. Then we come the month of June, I think when people realized that it's doable, then we had this huge flooding to the different pay points. and then encounter the same challenge which you're talking about.
So what happens in September? I mean, will Net1 still continue to benefit from being part of this system in some way, or come September, you will not have any relationship as far as the payment of social grants is concerned with Net1?
Come September, the court said a Net1, what's that? CPS is invalid. And come September, the court, they say, we can't come back to ask for an extension.
So even the yellow cards won't be underpinned by a system that's
Definitely
being run
not.
by a Net1 company?
Definitely not. It's going to be a complete different card, but also it's a Visa card, which was not the same as the past, but also it's a card which can be used in more different areas and different ways than the CPS and the Sassa CPS card. So you're talking about modernizing the system itself, but also making sure that it's not limited when you've got to use it. You can only use it in limited spaces. You'll go to Pick n Pay as an elderly person, you can buy with it. You go to the bank, you want to withdraw money, you can do that. So the advantage is that we're also expanding the opportunities of using that card. And we're also making sure that the card itself, one of the things which you do, there will be no charges. It will be no charges on that because it's very important. But not only that, when we go to the post office, we are also saying, as you withdraw, you can do that as many as you can, and there will still be no charges.
Right. I think the biggest thing that most South Africans want to hear is that every recipient will get their monies. Minister, we thank you so much for coming into the studio to explain all of these to us. I'm now going to hand over back to Francis.